Alright, so continuing from part 1. So once we brought in the footage already, okay, the next thing we want to do is we want to inspect the footage and then look for areas, right, which we can track. And as I mentioned before I started recording, right, this image, right, has a lot of barrel distortion. You can see over here. Okay, the column, right, is being bent. Okay, this is due to the lens distortion. Right, so later when we are solving this, we need to enable the lens distortion, right, in order to fix this very obvious distortion over here. Right, so which are the spots that are good for tracking? Now, when you are tracking, right, especially when your camera is moving towards in space, you want to try to track in as many objects, right, that are moving towards and then disappearing from the sides of the camera. Right, and then later as they disappeared, whatever points that has disappeared, right, we want to try to find points, right, to take over for tracking. So there are plenty of points, right. In fact, there are some points that are appearing for a long time, like for example this triangle over here, right, this central triangle over here, it appears right from the beginning and then almost right to the end. All right, let me just go all the way to the frames here. Right, so those are the anchor tracks that we want to track, and we want to make sure that we track them very, very well. Okay, so now I think we can start to do a track. Now, you can try to use the detect features option, but like I mentioned many times, for a lot of visual effects houses in professional studios, we don't use the detect features. We actually track every tracker manually one by one. So for this particular one, I'm going to use a affine, all right, and then I'm going to use a previous frame to match. All right, for the motion model, use affine, and then I'm going to enable normalize, increase the pattern size and the search size, and I think then that's pretty much it. Okay, so I'm going to start by tracking the first object, which is the triangular object over here. So holding down the control left mouse click, we're going to add one tracker. Okay, right now this tracker looks a little bit big. I'm going to press Alt and S to turn on my search area so I can see what is my search area. I'm going to reduce this tracker down a little bit by pressing S. Right about this size, this one is good enough. I'm tracking it right at the center. So I'm going to open up my track window so I can observe and see what I'm tracking. Sometimes to make the viewing a little bit easier, right, you might want to turn off the other colors. Like for in this case, right, I turn off the green color so I can view it only in the red channels and blue channels. So I can see it a little bit clearer here. Right, and then I can even turn on this contrast, this alpha, to see the cross a little bit better. Okay, so once I've established the track, I'm going to track just this tracker first. I'm going to press L so that this tracker is locked in the center so that I can observe it when I track. Then I can use my shortcut buttons over here, track forward, or the shortcut key is Ctrl T, and you can see that it tracks pretty well, pretty much all the way, but you can see it slides a little bit. From here to here it slides. Okay, and then if you find that this motion model is not working for you, sometimes I want to try another motion model to see whether maybe perspective might work better. So under the track settings for this tracker here, so instead of affine, I'm going to try perspective. And then I'm going to track forwards one more time. Ctrl T, go back to frame 1, and then Ctrl T and track forwards again. And actually it got worse. It seems that that sliding is still there. So I'm going to jump back to my affine. And maybe I want to reduce the size of the tracker a little bit and then track forwards a bit. And then the search area as well. Ctrl T and then see what happens. Okay, so it tracks most of the time, but I can see that it starts to slide to the center. Okay, maybe around here. Right, what I can do is that I'll try to manually push this to the center. Now when you do this, right, you establish another what do you call that, a keyframe. So from here I'm going to track backwards, Ctrl Shift T, and then forward again until to the point where I actually shifted this, then press Ctrl T again. Alright, so at least now I know that the tracker is right, or at least close to the center. Okay, right about here it stopped tracking. The reason is because my area of interest, right, the edges touches the search area, and then that stops the tracking. So how do I continue from here? Very simple, just increase the size of the search area. That's it. You don't have to touch the center. Then press Ctrl T and track forwards. Tracks until you couldn't track it anymore. Alright, so we got one tracker point down. Okay, so that's good. Then I'm going to press Ctrl L to lock it. Pressing Ctrl L will lock the tracker. And then I'll just continue to track, okay, from point to point until I get enough trackers along the way. Okay, so now I'm just observing and see what other spots can I track, and I'm looking at another triangular point. Okay, maybe I'll start off at a higher resolution by going forward like this, and then holding down Control and left mouse click, and A-Fine seems to work better, so I'm gonna track it right about here. Okay, I'm gonna start by tracking forwards first, Control T, until it starts to disappear. That's fine, this looks good. Right, at 160, Control Shift T to track backwards, and it's good. Alright, so this one is good. So we have two very good anchor points. And right about here, you notice another triangle start to appear. So maybe I'll start to track this one. I'm going to lock this one as well, Control L, lock it. Holding down the Control and left mouse click. Then press S to scale it down slightly. We want to put this right in the center here. Right, and then we're going to track forwards. So press Ctrl T all the way to the end. And right about here, we still have the issue where the area of interest is touching the search area. That's why it stops. So just need to increase our search area and press Ctrl T and track forwards. Okay, you can keep on tracking until you can see that this tracker is still actually moved back outwards. So we might want to go and rescale everything downwards by pressing S, scale it down slightly, and then using Alt and right arrow to track one frame at a time. Okay, this one I need to scale this down, got no choice. And press Alt, right cursor, and then you can see that it continues to track all the way to the end. So this is what we want. Okay, good. So this is good. Then press Ctrl L again to lock this. So now we have 3 trackers, and then basically we just continue to track. Okay, so I'll just talk over this and let you guys know my rationale for each of why I select each of the trackers as I move along. So right now over here, I see a spot, right, which is quite good, which is this on the track itself, the camera track itself. I see this gray spot over here. So for this one, I'm going to use a perspective, because there's going to be perspective distortion here. And then holding down Control and left mouse click, I'm going to just change the shape of the area of interest to match the perspective, like so. And I'll try to put it in the center of this gray spot here as much as I can. Okay, I'm going to manually track a few frames forward by pressing Alt and right cursor button, and then see how well it stays on the tracker. So right now I'm just holding Alt and right cursor. You can see that I'm going to touch my area of search area, and then you see it's going to stop, just as I expected. So increase the search area, Alt right cursor until it disappears. Okay, and then at this point here, I can scale everything down by pressing S, scale it down. Okay, increase the search area, Alt right cursor until it starts to disappear, like that. Okay, this one I can also lock it. So Control L and lock it. And every time when some of the points or some of the trackers start to disappear, right, you also want to you want other track points, right, to take over. Like over here, there's a very black spot here. This one looks quite easy to track. So I'm going to use a fine for this one. Holding down the control and then track this spot. And I'm going to scale it down so it's definitely tracking the center of this black spot here. Then press Alt again, right cursor. And you can see that it is tracking pretty well. Okay, but the feature is getting bigger and bigger because we are moving closer to it. Alright, but it's going to disappear. So this one is fine. This last frame, I don't like it, so I'm going to get rid of this one. Then press Ctrl L to lock this. Okay, then continuing on. Basically, you just look for more features to track, like this one. This one looks like a very good feature to track. Okay, I'm going to observe and see whether there's a lot of distortion for this. Not really. We can probably track the center here. Okay, so I'm going to press Ctrl left mouse click. Affine is fine. I'm going to click on Affine. Then scale this down slightly. I'm going to track right in between these two poles here, like that. And press Ctrl T to let it track forwards and see how far it goes. Okay, right about here, that is good. So I'm going to increase the scale of the search area. Press Ctrl T again. And we have the same issue. Right about here, maybe these few frames, last few frames, maybe I want to scale this everything down. Then press Alt, right cursor, and then let it track another few more frames. I think this is good. So press Ctrl L to lock this. Okay, so let's see, what else do we have? I see a couple of these post-it notes on the column, so these will be good for tracking as well. Now, when you want to track, right, you want to make sure your search area is within this column. You do not want to increase the search area outside here. Otherwise, right, if the search area pattern changes a lot, right, your tracker might have problems trying to stick to it. So what I'm going to do is, I'm not trying to create a very small tracker. I think to make it more contrasty, I'm going to track the corner here. Then I'm going to scale this down so it's within this space, like so. Alright, and then press Ctrl T, track forward, see what happens. Okay, managed to track the corner until right about here, and I think Affine is a bit unstable. You can see that the tracker is like moving all over the place. I'm going to change it to a different type, maybe to perspective. Then press Ctrl T. Okay, perspective also has the same issue, is sliding at the corner. So I'm going to do the tracking in reverse. I'm going to start maybe tracking right about here and then track backwards. So I'm going to get rid of this tracker. I don't like this one. Then use Affine. And I'll track this corner over here and then track backwards. So Control Alt, no, Shift Alt, I think. Sorry, Alt left cursor to track backwards. My mistake. Alt left cursor, and then I'm tracking this frame by frame backwards, and then it seems to be sticking to the corner very well, much better this time. So sometimes it depends on which frame you want to start the tracking, and in this case I'm tracking it backwards. Alright, okay, this is good. I will lock this. So I got a nice track for this one as well until it disappears. So this is going to take some time, yeah, but a good track, right, always, if you track it nicely and properly, right, it's going to give you much better results. Right, I'm looking at the different triangles on the wall and I'm trying to look for which one would be good for tracking. So this is why I'm always scanning forwards and backwards and then try to find the best one for tracking. And right now I'm only at my track number 7. Okay, maybe I want to start from the tail end and then track objects at the end here. And in this case, we have a couple of columns over here. Okay, like this particular blue sticker, this one actually appeared twice. It will appear over here, you go behind the chair, and then right about here it reappears again. So we can actually track this one, and then let's continue tracking to the other side. So let's track this blue cube over here, right in the center. And turn off the blue color so that it's clearer. Alright, so I'm going to track backwards. So Alt, left cursor. So keep on pressing the left cursor, you can see that it's sticking to the center very well. Okay, right about here you can see the search area is going to touch the chair. So I'm going to reduce the size of my tracker, reduce the size of the search area, and press Alt, left cursor, continue to track until the tracker can no longer be tracked. Right about here. Maybe one more here. Okay, right about here. Okay, this one maybe I have to manually move one slightly. Okay, then we stop tracking here, then continue until the tracker reappears again right about here. So this is the tracker that reappears. So we want to click on this empty orange part here to reactivate it. Then we have to manually drag and move it until it is right at the center. So I'm going to reinitialize the tracker by reshaping it to match the blue spot here. Okay, press Alt and left cursor to continue to track the last few bits until it disappears into the column. Okay, right about there. Maybe I'll stop tracking here. Let's see. Yeah. So it's hiding behind the column. So I don't want to second guess. You want to try to track it as accurately as possible. So for this one, I can now Control L to lock it. So a tracker can appear from behind and then reveal itself again. Right. So this is one thing that you guys can do to increase the accuracy of the final solve. Okay, let's see what else. Let's see which point that we need. Okay, right about the center here, we need to have more trackers. Okay, the wall offers a lot of points for tracking, so I'm probably going to use the wall again. Let's see. I'm looking at this shape over here. Okay, I'm going to track at the corner over here. Let me hide the G, the green, so make it a little bit clearer. Okay, track forwards, Alt, right cursor. Okay, this is using affine and previous frame, so this one is tracking very well. Okay, until the the search area, right, becomes too big, and reduce the search area. Or sorry, not the search area, the pattern, the search pattern. Okay, this one is good, all the way to the edge here. Alright, good. So this one is tracking very well. Okay, right to the first frame here. Now I'm going to track backwards. I'm going to reduce the size of this in the search area. Then holding down the Alt and then back cursor. And let's see how far we can go with this. Wow, okay, this one is going really far. Okay, the beginning is actually not very... Okay, I'm actually quite impressed. This one tracks all the way to the first frame. Okay, that's very good. Okay, although it's a bit noisy because the image wasn't very stable, but this is very, very good. All right. So again, this one might reappear again. Okay, actually, yeah, we can actually continue to track this. So I'm going to continue to scale this down. Select this tracker. Oh, I actually locked it. Scale the tracker down and then reduce the size a bit. Re-establish it, but be careful not to move the center because that is the point of interest that we are tracking. So press Alt, forward track, and see that you can see that it actually comes out a bit again, and then finally it disappears. So this is a good track. Control L, I'm going to lock this. So again, this is called supervised tracking. I'm not using any detect features or anything like that. I'm making sure all the trackers that I'm using is the best possible quality tracker. All right, so you can see a little bit of yellow zone start to appear already. That means my front part is starting to have enough information. Okay, so right now I'm looking at the rail. Maybe I want to track the rail again. Let's see which area can I track. On second thought, I think I will track this group of this panel over here. Okay, so this panel has a very unique pattern. Again, I seem to have good results when the camera is near the pattern, and then later on when I track backwards, right, then I will get a much better result. So I'm going to track maybe the corner here. So hold down the Control and left mouse click. I'm going to rotate this tracker so it's actually tracking just this corner. Then I'm going to track backwards. Alt, left cursor, and then track backwards. Okay, sticking very well. That's very good. All the way to frame 1. Okay, so that's good, right? And maybe I'll track a few frames forward. Right about here. Okay, maybe this one is not good. I'm gonna delete the last bit here. Control L, lock it. Alright, so this is how I usually track. Okay, so you can see now the yellow zone is becoming much more yellow. That means the front part we have more than enough trackers. Okay, so now I'm looking at a little L shape on the wall, this one here. This one seems to provide a lot of tracking information, so I'm going to track this corner here. Okay, I'm going to turn off the green so I can see a little bit better. So I'm going to track this backwards. Maybe I'll rotate this so it follows the L pattern. And Alt, left cursor. I'll just hold down Alt and left cursor and then observe, make sure that the tracker doesn't slide. Yeah. Okay, so it tracks very well. So I'm going to track this one forwards a few more frames. Maybe scale this down slightly. Alt, right cursor until it disappears. Then I'll lock this one. Control L and lock this. You can see the front part now is getting better and better and better. So we just slowly build towards until we get all the trackers in. Okay, now I want to look at the blue markers, right, that is on top of the, that will let us calculate the depth. So the one that I like is, okay, the only bad thing that I don't like is that these two poles, right, are overlapping each other. Alright, I want to try to find one that is more isolated. So maybe this one over here. So I'll start off at the highest resolution and I will track the corner here. Scale this down and maybe turn off the blue so it's easier to see. Then I will track this backwards. Alt, left cursor. And we'll see how far this goes until it disappears. Alright, so this is good. I'm going to track forwards now, Alt, right cursor, until it disappears. I'm going to lock this, Control L and lock this. Okay, right now I'm looking at this one. It seems that the corner here is, the front corner is better. Right about here. Okay, so I'll track this corner here. So I want to make the tracker small. Only want to track this corner here. So I want to track this one backwards. Alt, left cursor. Okay, it doesn't seem to be affected by the overlapping, although we can see that there is the green pattern is affecting the track. So right about here, okay, maybe I want to turn off the green, or I'll turn off the blue. Okay, now I'll try tracking it backwards again. Okay, you can see over here, because when there's a change in the pattern behind, it will always mess up the tracking, so I have to manually move this back. Track forwards a few frames, try and track back a few frames. This is just to refine the tracking. Okay, right now I'm just looking carefully. Okay, right now here this line is sliding again. Right about here, I have to track this one upwards a bit. Okay, right now this is sliding too much. Okay, I don't like, because of this white arrow here. This white arrow is messing up the thing. Okay, so this is probably going to give me bad data, so I'm not going to use this one. I'm going to delete this. So this is a problem, right? Whenever you're tracking and then you have the background changing, right, you will not have a very accurate track result. And you can see here there's another overlap, so I don't think I will use this one. So this one is good enough. Okay, so let's take a look at where else can we track. Maybe from the end here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to track the pole, or rather the tripod here. You can see that there's a very contrasty point over here. So I'm going to roughly track it in the center here. Scale this down. And let's see if I can hide the green or the blues. Make it more obvious. Okay, this one looks better. So I'm going to track forwards first and see how well it stays there. Right, and go back, pressing down the back cursor, now holding down the Alt and left cursor, and it looks good, it's staying there. Okay, I think this one is good enough. I will lock this. Okay, does it reappear again? No, it doesn't. Alright. Okay, so you can see the back part here, the region is becoming from red to yellow. So that means I still need to track a few more towards the end. Now after that, we can actually try our very first solve. Let's see, this one. Okay, I might have to use the these blue stickers for tracking. So I want to track the corner here. Rotate this. Scale this down, press S to scale it down, and then track backwards. Alt, left cursor, until they get obscured. Okay, this last frame is no good, so I'll delete this one. Control L to lock this. Okay, let's see what else. We definitely need to have more trackers towards the end. Okay, this one needs to be tracked forwards a few more frames. Let me unlock this Alt and Control L. Okay, I see a triangle that is good, but it's obscured. Maybe I'll track this little bar here. Okay, so track backwards and 308 Alt, left cursor. It's a bit unstable, but generally I'm able to keep it there. Okay, I'll lock this one because this piece disappeared behind her head. Okay, so I'll try a few more here. Maybe this, let's see where does this shape appear. Okay, this L shape looks good. This one. So track this one. So next time, if you are ever doing your prepping the green screen, make sure you put enough trackers to track. And always do a rehearsal when you are filming. Because if you don't have enough of these trackers, right, then you have a hard time, right, trying to solve this. Okay, so I'm gonna press Alt, left cursor, holding down to it and see how far it go. Track, all the way here. Okay, I think that's good. Control L to lock it. Okay, you can see that my red zone is getting less and less. But it still means that I definitely need more trackers towards the end here. So I'll start from here and then see where else can I track. Okay, I see another potential pattern. This one here on the ground. Okay, so we'll track backwards. Go and take your stuff. Press Alt and then left cursor. I'll just hold down and you should track. I think we should make this a little bit bigger. Alt, left, track, and until it disappears behind this column here. Does it reappear again? Okay, I don't want to take my chances because I don't want to introduce too much error. You can see my yellow zone is getting almost full already. So we just need a couple more trackers. Let's see. Okay, I think this one looks promising. This one is right at the edge here. So I'm going to select this, rotate this, hide the green so that we can reposition it here. Then Alt, left cursor and track. See how far this thing can go. Okay, this one actually disappears. Right, so I can't use that one. Let me delete away this tracker and then try again. See which one is promising. Okay, this one here. I think after this one we should be able to do our first solve already. Alt and then left cursor, and we need to rescale this, make it bigger. Alt, left cursor until it almost disappears. Okay, we still need a few more. Seems that yeah, that's a little tiny bit more for the last bit. Okay, I'll lock this, Control L. Okay, I'll probably track this piece over here on the floor. This one I'll rescale this to match the center here. I'm going to track the center of this, then Alt, left cursor, and then see how far it goes until right about here. Okay, we just entered our yellow zone. That means we can actually do our first solve. Okay, so total, how many trackers did I manually track altogether? 19. I got 19 tracks. Okay, so 19 high quality tracks, or at least tracks that I know they are good quality tracks. Okay, so we can do our solve. Before I do that, let me just save first. Okay, I have not saved this. Okay, GS_track. This is a green screen track, then save. And we will do our first solve by going to solve. Alright, and then we're going to try to find a good keyframe zone. There's a lot of frames here, maybe between 140 and 160. 140 and 160, there are plenty of frames. And then there's some parallax, 140 and 160 is good. So keyframe 140 and keyframe B 160. Sorry, yeah, 160. Between 140 and 160, yes. Alright, then we will solve and see what is the solve error. Okay, the solve error we get is 3.95. Alright, so we see a bunch of bumpiness around here. Okay, now we want to turn on focal length, then try solving again, and we get an error of 2.2. Okay, let's see what is the highest, what are the trackers that has the highest error. Okay, tracker number 2, which is, strangely, is this one. No, this one, yeah. Okay, so right now I'm suspecting that actually I know my trackers are good, so maybe, right, I want to try to use a different keyframe instead. And also remember, there's a lot of distortion. There's a lot of so I'm going to turn on optical center. Then I'm going to try to solve again and see whether I can bring the error down. Okay, now it's down to 1.74. And of course there's radial distortion. That means like the barrel distortion that we see earlier on. So I'm going to turn on radial distortion and see, hopefully we can bring the error down some more. Actually it went up. Okay, so let me undo that. Let's solve again. Now the good thing about this is that, let's say if you make a mistake of the solve, you want to start from beginning, you can press Shift S and clear the solution. Right, clear the solution, and then you can try solving it again. So right now, what is the camera's? The camera is being solved at 30.7 millimeters. Okay. So let's try solving it, but this time I want to try using a different keyframe. Maybe I'll start at 20 and then end at 40. And then I'll do a solve again. Oh, actually it got worse. Right. Let's see. Solve a few times. Sometimes you can solve a few times, see whether you get the error or not. Okay, since that most of the error are towards the end here, you can see the red zone over here. So I'm gonna change my, maybe change my perspective to 200. Or rather my keyframe from 200 to 220 instead. And try solving, see whether I can solve it back. Yeah, this is much better. 1.65. 1.65 without activating the focal length. So now I'm going to turn on focal length and solve. Okay, it only went down by 1.64. So we know that all of this is caused by this radial distortion. Let's try radial distortion and see whether I can bring it down. And bingo, see? Now the error went down to 0.54. Okay, 0.54, and then you see my blue line has become almost flat. Okay, I can hide the curve, you can see that it's almost flat. There's still some bumps here and there. Okay, usually the bumps are caused by, you can see over here, a tracker suddenly appearing like that. So we can always refine this. Okay, if you see a bump over here, you can see over here in this. Let me just zoom it in a bit. Holding down the control and middle mouse click. So this usually happens, right, where a marker appears or disappears. So to sometimes solve this, right, what we can do is, I see another object here that I can track. I can go over to the tracker, all right, and then I will track this triangle, and hopefully that will refine or at least smooth out this bump over here. So I'll track forwards first, Alt right cursor, see how far it goes until it reaches the edge like that. Then I'll come over to here and then track backwards, Alt left cursor until it disappears or is being overlapped. Okay, in this case it's being overlapped, so I think I will stop tracking from here. Then I'll clear away the path from here. Then I'll lock this one. Alright, so I have a tracker that is being tracked over here. So I can try to solve it one more time with the same values and see whether this bump will go away. Oh, it actually went down slightly. Okay, but the bump is actually still quite obvious. So what I can try to do is maybe, yeah, this one you can see there's a bit of sliding on the tracker. That is why we have an error over here. So what I'm going to do is, I want the tracker to stop tracking from here onwards. So maybe get rid of the tracks forwards. Undo. Let me undo that. I'm supposed to be changing this one. So what tracker is this one? This one is tracker number 2. That's why the error is quite high for this one. Let me unlock it first so that I can edit this. I'm going to clear. Oops. Clear the data after this. Okay, now I'm going to try to solve one more time. And you can see now the bump is gone. Okay, because I get rid of the bad tracking information for the tracker just before it went behind the head. Okay, so I think my track is good. Okay, let me go over to the solve. I want to see whether I can bring the error down even more. Now my error is at 0.5, which is fantastic. So let me just save this first. And I will turn on the optical center. And I'll try to solve this, see whether it goes down. See, it goes down even more, 0.33. Okay, so this is entirely solved by manual tracking. Okay, so you can see I can bring down the error down to such a low level. So this is good. So now I'll save this. And I think I'll stop the video recording for now. The next part is we will be doing the layout. Okay, doing the layout of the shot. Then after that, right, we will be rendering this shot and then preparing for compositing. Okay, so I'll stop recording now.